Okay, so now that we've done an examination of all the terms involving the different elements of story structure, we're gonna break it down and see how those things play out in Dr. Seuss's The Butter Battle book. This was my favorite book as a child, and as you can see, it's kind of worn down and the pages are definitely thin, but this is one of my favorite books. So we're gonna examine it and see kind of how it follows all the story structure we've been discussing. So when the book starts out, we're expecting what we need right off the bat is we need a setup. We need as much information as we need to know to get the story rolling, and that's exactly what Dr. Seuss gives us. He says, on the last day of summer, 10 hours before fall, my grandfather took me out to the wall. And then he explains that there's a wall that's separating the yucks in blue and the zooks in orange, and they're having a battle or a argument over whether or not butter should go on the top of bread or on the bottom of bread. And so then it explains that Grandpa's job from the time that he was a youth was to protect the wall, and he would go out and he would protect the wall with his little, what he calls a snickberry switch, which is just fun to say, let's be honest. And so he's going out, and that's the setup. That was his job, and everything in his world is balanced so far. Yes, there's a conflict going on, but it's just the usual. There's balance, nothing has happened yet. And so now what we can expect to see at this point, the setup is over, we need a conflict. We need something to happen that upsets the story. Also, we have an introduction there. We know who our protagonist is going to be, which is Grandpa Yook. He is the main guy, but we don't know who our villain is, and we don't know what the conflict is yet, but we're about to find out. So we turn the page, and we introduce ourselves to a couple things. One, we've got our antagonist here, a Zook by the name of Van Itch, so protagonist and an antagonist right here. And we have our conflict introducing right here, our inciting incident, if you will. You've got it right here when Van Itch shoots down his snickberry switch. So here, you've got the inciting incident. We'll just put II up here. Inciting incident with the shooting down of the snitch, or the snickberry switch, sorry. He shoots it down, introduces conflict right here, and we have our antagonist all figured out. So now what we should expect is this. We should expect a kind of, okay, how's he going to deal with it? And then we should expect this, all right? A conflict that kind of builds toward what we need, which is our resolution over here, right? Resolution. All right, so we should be moving toward that in a nice flow. We should also see some sort of character arc between our Grandpa Yook as he goes from one side to the other. So we'll see if this book has all those things. So what we have now, our poor Grandpa Yook goes back. He finds his allies here, the backroom boys, and they have figured out a new weapon. And so they send him with this, because this will help. If the other guy's got a slingshot, we're just going to make you a bigger slingshot. Of course, Van Itch runs off. Okay, everything's going good. Okay, is balance restored? No, because Van Itch comes back with a thing that's going to shoot it right back. And so now we've got our first element. We've gone up, and we had a, okay, is he going to fix the balance? No, so now we're back down again. So he goes back. He needs something else. Here they go. They've got a dog with some sort of tank weapon on top of the dog, which I'm sure is comfortable. And he goes back, and look at this. Now they've got elephants with a bunch of random cannon-looking things on top of that. So again, we've got another thing. Okay, well, we're rising up to conflict, and now there's even more. Okay, the dog is not going to be enough when they've got elephant cannons things. Okay, so then we keep going. He comes back. They're all upset. Okay, now we've got a new thing for you to do. And we've got, oh, this is one of my favorite cool things. He's riding around in a mech-looking thing. And so they give him this. He's going to go out there and deal with it, except for the fact that you turn the page, and they've got one too. So Grandpa and Van Itch here, they're basically battling it out, and they're basically equals. So we don't know how this is going to end, but what we do see is we see a clear up and down, okay? They think they're getting better, they reach the thing, and then no, it's not better. So then they're going to have to keep going. And each time, it's escalating. The conflict is escalating and rising. It's like, oh my gosh, what is going to happen next? So he goes back, and this is where we have what I would call the all is lost moment of this book. You can tell because all their faces are so sad. Very sad looking faces. And it says, I flew right back home. I was downright despondent, disturbed, and depressed. And so he gets back and he's realizing all hope is lost. Every time I come up with something, they've got it too. I don't know what I'm going to do. And so they get up there, and so now we've got our all is lost moments, and what we need here is our final climax. We need the final climax that he's going to have to achieve, and then whenever he comes down from it, that's when we're going to have our resolution, right? So we need something that's big, something to lift his spirits, one last thing. And he goes back to his back room, and notice they're all hiding now because they've invented the pink Easter egg of doom, if you will, the Bitsy Big Boy Boomeroo. And it is a bomb, and it's going to deal with the Zooks once and for all once he drops it. So they give it to him, and we have our last act. Everybody goes down into the storm shelters. He runs out with his grandson to the wall, and he's like, this is it. This is finally going to achieve all of our goals. We're going to win. And then we get to this page, this final climax. He's up on the wall. He's ready to go, and right over here, we got Van Itch coming with his own pink Easter egg of doom. And then the book ends. We're on our last page. You've got Grandpa and Van Itch up on the top with their pink Easter eggs of doom. And it ends with this phrase, be careful, Grandpa, who's going to drop it? Will you or will he? And Grandpa says, be patient, said Grandpa. We'll see, we will see. And then we end. So what's really interesting about this book is that it takes us to the final climax with them up on top of the hill. Here they are. Oh, look at those two perfect, awesome drawings. They're up there with their pink Easter eggs of doom. They're up on the wall, and we need resolution, except for Dr. Seuss ends the book right here. He doesn't give us a clean resolution. He leaves it up to our own brain to determine what the resolution should be. Or in his case, what he's doing in a deeper way is saying that there's not really going to be a good resolution to this game. And we talked about how, you know, it's funny, Grandpa Yook starts here and we're supposed to see this character arc slowly. By the time he reaches here, he should be somebody different. But what we're seeing is he starts here one way and it escalates, but he's not really changing. He just keeps going back to deal with it the same way. And by the time he gets here, whatever happens on this mountaintop, or on the wall, if we will, with this Easter egg, whatever happens at that point will be something unchangeable, unreversible, and that will end his character arc, but we don't actually get to see what it is. We also talked about how sometimes a book can be just a book about yooks and zooks in a wall. But in reality, I think what Dr. Seuss is saying is that as conflict builds, if you just keep building bigger and bigger and bigger weapons, and the other side keeps building bigger and bigger weapons, eventually the resolution is not going to be good. We're not going to see it. All you can determine is it doesn't matter who drops the Easter egg of doom. Whoever does it, the whole thing's over. And that's the end of that. So what we're seeing is that even in Dr. Seuss's book, we have all these major elements. We have our inciting incident, our setup, rising conflict. We have our climax. We have our all is lost moment down here where he's so sad and what's he going to do? And then they give him the little egg. He goes back up. We have our final climax. And the only thing that we don't see is resolution. He leaves us hanging with the resolution. So even in this book, in this awesome little children's book, we have all our key elements of story. We have our universal story form painted out. We have all the different things that we've discussed in our structure. And so yeah, that's the simple way. So you're going to do the same thing in this section's project.